Shadowbinders is back in stock on shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. And now on with the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, and we're going to talk about the comic book industry and much sadness in the comic book industry because a lot of industry professionals are not getting paid very well despite creating comics that are sparking the creation of TV shows and multi-billion-dollar movie franchises. Most professionals are work for hire, and they're stuck making work for hire money. And in a perfect world, right, the comic book publishers would kick them a few extra bucks, but they're not really legally obligated to do that. And there's much weeping and gnashing of teeth. We're going to talk about this article coming from The Hollywood Reporter, where a lot of comics creators are getting what they're calling shut up money and very minor credit, even though they're creating characters that are making bank. Meanwhile, for people who actually create their own comics, things are pretty good. If you're making your own stuff, look at Todd McFarlane. He's doing pretty good. Hell, we're even doing pretty good. I put this tweet out today that we've been selling books every day after the Indiegogo ended. We're selling more books now than we did when Shadowbinders was in its peak 8 years ago or so. We're selling lots of books every day, direct to consumer, and we own all of it. So it's pretty cool. It's a good time to be an indie creator because people are looking for options. They're looking for alternatives to Marvel and DC, and the smarter creators will jump ship, I think, and go make their own stuff. Look at Mark Miller. Look at some other creators that are jumping ship. It's things are actually pretty good right now. But we're going to talk about what's going on with Marvel and DC. Things are not so good because these guys and girls are feeling slighted because, corporations are behaving like corporations. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 206,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. Greatly appreciated. Geeky is sitting this video out, but she will be back later on today. So I saw this floating around on Heat Vision. The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel and DC's shut up money. Comic creators go public over pay. And this is sort of a compilation, as I understand it, of multiple complaints, multiple grievances that comic book creators have toward Hollywood right now. That, hey, things are great. We keep hearing things are great. Hollywood loves comic books. Hollywood loves superheroes. Except if you're the creator of a lot of these characters, you're not getting anything because the superheroes are corporate owned, most of them. Again, unless you're Mark Millar, unless you're Todd McFarlane, and you own your stuff. That's the way to go, guys. That's the way to go. But we're going to see what happens if you don't own your stuff. If you're a spoke in a wheel working for a company like Disney or Warner Brothers, this is what happens. They can go make a movie. It can make billions of dollars. They can go create an entire TV show based on your characters, and you're not owed any additional compensation. This happens with Cartoon Network a lot of times too. Cartoon Network, they option your show. They buy the rights to it. I've heard of a lot of showrunners who are completely cut out of the creative process, obviously for reboots. You hear about that all the time. That's part of, I think, what went wrong with Powerpuff Girls 2016 and what's going to go wrong with a live action version. But they also are not owed any additional compensation beyond whatever the agreed upon royalties were. And that IP goes into the IP vault. And in 20 years, if they want to resurrect something and bastardize it, they have the right to do it because they're a corporation. That's what they do. You make the ideas and they take them and they profit off of them, even if it's decades later. So here we go. The star writers and artists behind major comic book characters are becoming increasingly outspoken about paltry deals that don't account for their work being adapted into billion-dollar blockbusters. And they're talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, specifically, which was based on Ed Brubaker's run, right? So it said that Marvel fans were flying high with the release of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier as the Disney Plus series rose to the top Nielsen's closely watched streaming charts with 855 minutes viewed during April 12th through the 18th. One person fans were surprised to learn wasn't watching was Ed Brubaker, the comic book writer who co-created the Winter Soldier character and whose work helped inspire a billion-dollar grosser like Captain America Civil War, made waves with a widely circulated interview in which he expressed dissatisfaction with his Winter Soldier pay. I've made more on SAG residuals than I've made on creating the character. Basically, he's made more money acting than he made off of the character. Brubaker was talking to Kevin Smith on the Fat Man Beyond podcast, referencing his cameo in Captain America the Winter Soldier. And Ta-Nehisi Coates worked on Black Panther. Now, look, Ta-Nehisi Coates did not create Black Panther. And technically, Ed Brubaker did not create Bucky Barnes. He didn't create Bucky. He made him the Winter Soldier, but he didn't create Bucky. So they really didn't owe them any more residuals. His run on Black Panther helped the $1.2 billion grossing Chadwick Boseman film get greenlit. Did it? Did it really? I always thought they were going to do it. But he backed up Brubaker in an interview with Polygon, noting that he was fortunate not to depend on comics for a living. I wish that Marvel found better ways to compensate the creators who helped make Black Panther Black Panther. Now, Ta-Nehisi Coates is moving on up. He's getting into Superman. He's doing Superman. He's making lots of money. He's making millions of dollars. Meanwhile, over at Marvel Comics, editors are getting paid under $35,000 a year in Manhattan. Okay? I mean, this has always kind of been the way going back to Superman with Schuster and Siegel. It's always kind of been the way that things have worked in comics. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying that there have never been more options for independent comics right now, for people to create their own thing and own their IP. You don't have to sell your soul to Disney or Warner Brothers and get a shitty deal. That's all I'm saying. So they're talking about the work for hire contracts. It's so weird because now we get all these comics creators talking about how they want to unionize and all this stuff. And I'm like, the money's not there. You know, manga creators actually get pretty good deals because they sell books. You got to sell books if you want to get paid more. You got to sell books if you want to get royalties. You're not selling books. So they talked about some people getting paid off. They're getting a little bit of hush money. There's no legal obligation to make additional payments for adaptations, with companies such as Marvel viewing these payments as thank you gifts in a way to avoid the bad publicity of warring with a creator. It's shut up money, as one Marvel creator who receives such payments but also declined to share details of the compensation likes to call it. Even if companies have no legal obligation to compensate these writers and artists, paying more is akin to contract renegotiations with an actor. If a TV show or movie is a success, studios believe it makes sense to offer an actor more money for the sequel to keep him happy. Nobody wants a bitter actor on set. Nobody wants a bunch of comic book artists out there bitching on Twitter all day. Oh, never mind. They do already. They already do it. So never mind. It doesn't matter. They're going to bitch anyway. So they're talking about since the 70s, DC creators who add new characters to the mythos have been entitled to payments from film, TV, and merchandising, an idea spearheaded by Jeanette Kahn, the women who never worked in comics before. Yeah, Jeanette Kahn ran DC for a long time. And she ran DC during its resurgence. And she was a she. Imagine that. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, for example, drew upon the work of dozens of creators who received some form of compensation, sources say. The Wolverine co-creator said he received more money for creating Lucius Fox, the Batman character played by Morgan Freeman in Nolan's film, than for creating the iconic X-Men hero portrayed by Hugh Jackman in 9 movies. So he got more money. He got more money for Lucius Fox than for freaking Wolverine. That's crazy. So they're talking about this, and this is not shocking. Now, what's interesting is they do bring up Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane has been incredibly successful. He left Marvel, at the height of his popularity. I mean, he was killing it on Spider-Man. He left, he started Spawn over at Image. He immediately got to work becoming more than just a comic book creator, more than just an artist. Very, very smart guy. He's like, you know what? I can't draw all day long because I'm limited by what I can do. So he went out and he started a toy company, and he hired other people to make his comics for him and help him make his comics. He did the first, I don't know how many issues of Spawn, but then he turned it over to Greg Capullo, I think. He's had other people do spinoffs. He's running the toy company. He went out and started getting, an animation deal with HBO and a movie deal, video game deals, very, very smart guy. Like he knows that as just being a comic book creator, you're limited in the amount of money you can make. And you also have a limited shelf life, because nobody's a king forever. Kings don't rule forever, right? And he was the king at that point in time. But he's like, well, eventually I'm not going to be hot anymore. So I got to have these other businesses going to feed my family. And he's still going. He made, over $3 million on Kickstarter with a reissue of a Spawn action figure. Spawn 300 outsold J.J. Abrams' Spider-Man #1. So this guy's smart. So if Todd says something, you should listen to him. Todd McFarlane was among the creators who popularized the notion of owning your own copyright. He was co-founder of Image. He launched the publisher in '92 after becoming a star writer-artist on Marvel's Spider-Man. He co-created Venom. McFarlane still gets checks for Venom, which has a new movie out from Sony in September. Probably not a whole lot of money, but he still gets some money. You're paying the original creator crumbs, said McFarlane. The first person who says we're going to pay 3 times crumbs is going to look like a genius and have a flood of talent coming in your direction. McFarlane is taking that lesson to heart as he attempts to build out a shared universe based on Spawn, the popular character he owns, and is developing into a movie with Blumhouse, putting together a contract that will address that in a much more significant way. That's hella cool that he's doing that, because this was his platform. He was like, creators are getting screwed. The best way to make a living in comics is to own your own shit, and I'm going to hire other people to help me create more stuff in this universe, because he's not going to make it all. It's not like he's just doing work for hire. Like I'm writing all the stories and you're going to come in and do the art. It's like, no, it sounds like he's going to hire other people to come up with the entire concept and add to the Spawn universe, the Spawn mythos, a la DC Comics, and he's going to pay them accordingly, which I think is really cool. So it's just good business. So really, at the end of the day, the best advice I think we could give you is, yeah, you can make a pit stop working for Marvel or DC, but realize that you're never going to own it. If you create a bunch of new characters for them, fantastic. They'll probably keep you on payroll as long as they can, as long as you're selling books or you've got the right identity. Mostly the latter, I think, these days. But you're never going to really own those characters, and they can get rid of you, keep the character, and just throw a couple of bucks your way every once in a while if it gets picked up as a Disney Plus show. You want to make real money, you're going to have to go make your own stuff, bet on yourself, do independent comics, work out a deal. It's possible. It's definitely possible. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys, and we'll talk later.